Well, Sherry, thanks for being on the podcast. It's great to have you on the show. Let's go ahead and get started.
Sure.
Okay. First of all, you've done some work in our district with us for the past couple of years, but let's tell our audience a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I work for a special project called Literacy Collaborative. It's part of the Ohio State University, and I also do some private consulting with the school districts.
And you do some of that consulting with us, and we'll talk about that more here in a little bit. But what are some experiences that you've kind of had in your life that have kind of landed you with Ohio State or working with these different projects?
Yeah, well, I started out as a classroom teacher, so I've got over 10 years in the classroom, and I taught third grade and first grade, and reading recovery trained, taught sixth grade science and social studies, and then I had the good fortune of working with the school district as they were just implementing coaching. And when I had a chance to work with the coach in my building, it was really a professional and life-changing experience to be able to have that person to collaborate with side by side. And you never know, what will happen down the road. And so it just so happens that down the road, when my coach moved on to work for Ohio State, and when there was an opening in the project, she gave me a call and said, "Would you be interested?" And I jumped at it.
So it's great that you've had that transition from teacher into coach, and now you get a chance to work with some of our coaches here. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of the work that you've done with Celina?
Well, I know when we initially started working, I had the privilege of working with the literacy leadership team as they were kind of processing the direction that Celina was going to move into with literacy, and helping them think about resources that might be available, and part of that selection process, making that available. I wasn't really part of selecting, but they made those, had an opportunity to make those choices. And so from there, I kind of switched roles, moving away from working with that team to working with 4 absolutely fabulous ladies.
Yeah, they are great. And we know we're talking about Laura, Karen, Sarah, and Christine, our 4 literacy coaches, and we're truly blessed to have them.
You are.
And they are 4 fantastic former teachers who have now moved into coaching roles for us in the district. And part of your work with us is helping them with that kind of transition. Can you kind of tell us a little bit more about that transition and what that looks like?
Well, I'll tell you this. I've trained probably, since 2006, I've been training literacy coaches, and it really is a transition because you have that, you get into education for the love of students, and so there really has to be this desire to want to work with adult learners. And it does. It takes some transition and thinking about those roles as they change. And these 4 ladies they're fantastic. Their heart and mind is in the right place. And learning to work with adults is part of it is learning about what adult learning theory has to teach us about working collaboratively like that. And then there's a whole skill set that they need to develop in terms of really having thoughtful conversations with teachers where they're really learning to be kind of like a thought partner with a teacher, and to look at the things that teachers might be grappling with, new learning for themselves. And there's always new learning for teachers, right?
Right.
And so it's being able to be kind of that problem solver, that person who helps them look over data and what is this telling me about my readers and writers, and what might my next steps be? What can I try out? Sometimes the coach is modeling instruction. Sometimes the coach is there to be there to kind of engage and see what are kids doing. Let's think about this and build some conversation and think about next steps in supporting student learning.
Right, you talked a lot about their working with adults. Can you maybe give our audience a quick example of a difference between working with students and helping them learn versus working with adults?
Well, I think the one thing you have to do is you really have to, one of the big differences is that adult learners have histories. No child is a blank slate for sure, and no adult is a blank slate. They all have histories, and they have different things and experiences and knowledge pieces that they bring to that opportunity. And so being mindful and respectful of that as you take on the new learning, I think that's one of the things that, we have this idea that because they're adults, this learning will be easy. I can just hand you this on a silver platter and you can take it and run with it. And that's really not the way learning works for adults either. We need time to practice if we're going to really internalize that learning. And so coaching is supporting teachers as they learn to practice new learning.
Right, and some of the examples that you guys have done, this is kind of the PD room where a lot of the work that Sherry has done with our teachers, like today you guys did some professional development, and some of the examples that we have back here, talking about some different things with closings, openings, energies, collaboration. Did you want to talk any more about those?
I was going to say all of these were factors that we considered when we're planning professional learning sessions, so that the coaches who are also professional developers are being very intentional about meeting the needs of adult learners.
Right. And we did do some professional development today with some of our staff. What does that kind of look like?
Today?
Yeah.
Well, today we were thinking about, our roles sort of as leaders. Coaches are leaders, teachers are leaders, administrators are leaders, and so bringing that together to really think about what are the indicators of a true learning organization.
Okay.
And so that has to do with the practices that we use, the processes that we use to make decisions. It has to do with the leadership, how we lead others, and how we create a learning environment so that we're all learning.
Right, and we are working with our coaches to help them go from teaching students to working with adults, and we're really helping our coaches specifically with some of the professional development that they're going to be offering to our staff here this spring and even into the summer and coming years. So they're getting a great training here with a guru and getting some great examples. So you also talked in your answer before about the different roles that some of our coaches can take on, versus them just being a fixer. You have them grapple with a variety of roles, problem solver and so forth. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, I think it's really important for coaches, for teachers, and for administrators to understand that coaches are not there to fix teachers. Teachers aren't broken. Right. We all have our current understandings, and as learners, we should be open to continually adding to our repertoire of what we know and understand about how to best serve our kids. And so I think that's one of the big things that I think is really important, that coaches aren't coming in to fix something, nor are they coming in to evaluate teachers. And that's a real sticking point when a district is taking on the role of coaching for the first time. Teachers often don't have anything else to compare that coaching relationship to other than like an administrator. And absolutely, it is the administrator's job to evaluate. But a coach's role is not. It's really that side-by-side, colleague-to-colleague partnership to do some problem solving in order to, and it should be student-led. So we're not trying to fix a teacher. We're trying to see what is the best way to meet the needs of this student.
Right, and you talk about side-by-side problem solving, not one person directing the other on what to do.
Yeah.
So something that we're working on here with our culture in Celina is having our teachers become more familiar, more comfortable with having coaches and having more people in the room, whether it's to observe or review or just come in and watch. So that's something that we've definitely been working on here at Celina, and we're taking small steps to where everyone is ready for that. Some people have to grow in kind of that direction. This work can be very challenging. Training adults to work with other adults, or even to have people go into different classrooms. Can you talk about how our coaches are overcoming challenges or overcoming anything to help or to be that side-by-side person?
Oh, I would say probably one of the things they're working really hard on is putting I'd say this sense of urgency that they have. I do believe that they have a sense of urgency, not panic.
Right.
Okay, but a sense of urgency that everything that we do with our students matters. It counts. We know the pandemic has put a lot of pressure on teachers, and everybody feels like, oh, they're behind. And I understand that, but at the same time, they are where they are. And so being able to support teachers where they are and still carry that sense of urgency that we still need to lean forward and move into the challenges that we have. I think that can always be challenging. Sometimes we put more pressure on ourselves than anybody else. And I see that sometimes that, they're, like I said before, their hearts are in a really good place and they want to be help. And I always tell them, help is only help if it's perceived as help. And so, you need to have that really strong, trusting relationship between a coach and a teacher so that we can push everything else aside and really focus our time and energy on what matters most.
Right, help is there for us, and we need to be ready for that help when it's coming our way. So let's just kind of switch gears here a little bit. You've done some work with our coaches, you've done some work with our Celina Literacy Leadership Team, and you've also done some work with kind of a lot of our ELA teachers across the district over the past couple of years. You've been in and out of the classroom. If you could kind of talk to our teachers or talk to our school community, what's a message that you could share with them, maybe to inspire them, or maybe to just kind of keep them going?
Oh, goodness. I think that there's a lot of things that could be said, but I think
Okay.
I would want to say every moment that you spend with a child matters, every moment. And that can be an awesome responsibility.
Right.
And that can drain teachers of their capacity, to move through, to teach, to constantly planning, to be thinking moment by moment what comes next. And I would say, give yourself permission to take care of yourself too, to realize that there are limits to our capacity. There always are. And knowing when you're getting close to those limits of capacity, to reach out to colleagues, to reach out to a literacy coach, to find that support that you need, because everything they do matters.
Right. That's a great message, having teachers, be mindful of where they are. And a lot of time we focus a lot on what the students are doing, but we also need to be mindful of ourselves in this work. We do have some professional development coming up in the district with some trauma-informed care. And we're definitely going to focus on us being able to connect with those kids, but also having our adults being ready to handle trauma and trauma that they could see with working with other students, but also reliving and dealing with some trauma with themselves.
True.
And creating a space for them to handle that and to have some resources in case they need some extra help or supports along the way. So thanks for sharing that message with our staff. That's great. But let's talk a little bit more about you. What do you have kind of in the works? What's on horizons for you? For Sherry Kinzel?
Well, in my private consulting, I do have a lot of schools. I have the pure luxury of working with literacy coaches and teachers in Texas and Maryland and Tennessee, in Ohio as well. And so I've got new adventures right on the horizon. People have already called me and pretty much booked up my calendar.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to building new relationships with schools and the teachers that are there.
Okay. So it's great that your business is thriving out there, your consulting work is thriving, you're able to work with teachers all across the country. Would you share with us just a little bit about just maybe a theme that you're seeing across the country with any work that you're doing? Or it could be with coaching, it could be just working with people with the pandemic.
Yeah, I can state the obvious.
Okay.
These last 2 years have been very draining.
Okay.
Teachers are tired, and rightly so. And I think one of the things that does concern me greatly is, and it may not be happening in Celina yet, but I do see it nationally. I'm very concerned about teachers who are leaving the profession. And I think we really need to care for our teachers in every possible way, whether it's financially, whether it's, time-wise, whether it's, whatever it might be. We really need to care for our teachers. I want to see it. My daughter-in-law is doing her student teaching right now.
Right.
And I told her, I said, you're probably going to have your pick of openings, unfortunately.
Right.
Because we have so many that are leaving. We really need to take care of our teachers. We really do.
A big thing that we really work on here at Celina is making sure that our teachers have a voice and participate in the process. I guess I've read some of the things that you hear, and teachers during this time, they definitely want to have a voice. They want to have a say in the decision making. And a lot of the teams that I lead and across the district, teachers, getting that opportunity to share. Across on social media, you probably see a lot of the things that we put out on video, where we're looking to give teachers voices and give them a chance to share what's happening in the classroom. So that's one way that we're looking to do that. And we do need to find more ways to celebrate success and to support our teachers, and honor their efforts. And another way that we're looking to do that is through our professional development. Give them some training to where they can make an impact, not only with themselves, but within the classroom. So, okay. Great question here for you. Hopefully you can give us a wonderful answer. Is there something that you want to share that we didn't ask about?
Oh. I don't know, other than, I guess what comes to mind is the value in collaborating and working together. I see that in the districts that are just high functioning, and people are happy. There's a lot to be said for going home at the end of the day or the end of the week and having that sense of satisfaction. What I see as a really strong indicator of that are when everybody's on the same page, when everybody has shared understandings about what we're doing and how we're doing it, from teachers to coaches to admin. Everybody really is collaborating and working together. And so I think I would just encourage, if you don't feel like you're collaborating, find that avenue. Ask someone, speak up, be a part of that team, get really engaged and involved in that.
Right, always find a way to reach out and look to have a conversation. We talk a lot about in our district about, we don't just want to have one conversation. They're not one and dones or one-sided. Mm-hmm. We want to have two-sided ongoing conversation, with our staff, with our kids, with our school members, whoever we bring in to do any sort of supporting work for us. We always want to have that ongoing piece.
Absolutely, and I think we underestimate the power of those conversations. Sometimes it's just talk. I mean, if we're honest about it, sometimes it's one person talking and another person talking, and we don't have these lines of communication. And I think that's something that I see really high functioning districts and schools do. They have protocols in place for this is how we build authentic, genuine conversations where everybody feels heard, where everybody feels valued, where it's a safe environment. If I disagree with something, I know I can disagree and it's going to be okay.
Right, a free-flowing process for sharing ideas, where every idea is valued, all the values worked and taken advantage of. So that's wonderful. Great segment here to kind of end us, deals with the Bulldog Bark, a place where you can give a shout out. Do you have a Bulldog Bark you'd like to share with us?
As long as I don't literally have to bark.
No, you don't have to do that. You can just share, here's something great that you're seeing or someone you want to give praise to.
Oh, you know what? I think it would have to be those 4 coaches. I think it would have to be to them for sure, because they do way more than I think anybody sees happening. It's when they are often coaches, or I always tell them, you'll be a great coach if you don't care who gets the credit. And all of them are very humble, hardworking people. So.
Right, we got a great team of literacy coaches here. Yeah. They are wonderful, and I always refer to them as builders. There's someone where we can kind of give maybe a blank slate to, or a template or a framework, and they just enjoy building it, tweaking it, and working to bring it to something successful that our teachers can utilize. So we're very excited to have them and all the work that they're looking to do in the future. So, well, Sherry, thanks for being a part of our podcast today. It's always great to have you come back in our district and work with our staff.
My pleasure.
All right, thank you.